Welcome to Travel Curiosities, the channel that takes you through time and space in search of the most fascinating, bizarre, and often unknown stories of our past. Have you ever thought that behind the magnificence of an iconic place like Versailles there could lie details as curious as they are, well, a bit disgusting? Write it below in the comments. Did you imagine it, or does it catch you completely by surprise? If the topic intrigues you and you can't wait to find out more, subscribe to the channel right now and leave a nice like on this video. Your support is essential for continuing to take you on a journey among the marvels and secrets of history. Usually, when we think of the Palace of Versailles, the first image that comes to mind is that of gilded halls, Italian-style gardens with perfect designs, Baroque stucco, and lavish outfits. Yet, as often happens, behind the splendid, eye-catching facade of a place that symbolizes power and luxury, there lurk practices that are anything but noble, especially regarding hygiene and court customs. In this era, where everything had to appear impeccable and majestic, the behind-the-scenes of France's grandest palace were far from elegant. In this video, we will delve into the oddities and dirty secrets that mark daily life at the Sun King's court. From the exaggerated use of perfumes to how morning ceremonies worked, from chairs with holes to the unbelievably long and disorganized parties, we'll take you on a journey into the least bright and most fragrant side of Versailles past. Get ready to be left open-mouthed. 1. The historical context. A court in all its splendor towards the end of the 17th century, King Louis XIV, known in history as the Sun King, decided to move permanently to Versailles, transforming a modest hunting lodge into a monumental palace complex. His idea was to reflect the absolute power of the king. In his plan, Versailles had to become the pulsing heart of the French monarchy. With its gardens, water features, the Hall of Mirrors, and lavish private rooms, Louis XIV's aim was to leave anyone setting foot at court breathless, be they foreign princes or ambassadors. However, at that time, hygiene knowledge was very different from ours, and, above all, the necessity of keeping up an image of sumptuousness often took precedence over installing adequate plumbing systems. Versailles, in fact, lacked the kind of sanitary facilities we'd consider standard today. Despite its vast spaces and fine details, the palace did not have modern toilets or functional sewers. The consequence? They resorted to methods that to us today would seem utterly unimaginable. 2. The architecture of luxury, opulence and contrasts. At first glance, everything in Versailles screamed magnificence. The walls were covered in refined tapestries, the ceilings were painted by illustrious artists, the floors gleamed with precious marble, and meanwhile, the royal gardens featured sculptures, dramatic fountains, and rare flowers brought from every corner of Europe. Walking the palace corridors meant losing oneself in a never-ending maze of rooms, antechambers, boudoirs, hidden staircases, and secret passages. Yet behind this parade of beauty and harmony were daily management issues that were anything but simple. Just think about the heating, often insufficient during harsh winters, or the lighting, as well as the necessity to circulate daily an incredible amount of food, tableware, clothing, and linens in a palace hosting thousands of people among nobles, servants, and visitors. Managing bodily waste, and more, was one of these big challenges, often solved in a highly questionable manner. 3. The hygiene that didn't exist. Between perfumes and dirt given Versailles' drastic shortage of drains and running water, the only solution to combat unpleasant odors was for the nobility to rely on massive quantities of perfume. We're talking liters and liters of scented essences per day, used to mask odors that were far from pleasant. Forget a daily shower. At court, people believed that frequent bathing was harmful to one's health because they thought water could penetrate the pores and cause illness. The ladies and gentlemen of Versailles preferred to cover their skin with powders, rose essences, jasmine, lavender aromas, and anything else that would help disguise the stench that built up in the palace's halls and corridors. There were even specific professions related to creating personalized perfumes, commissioned by the queen herself or by the king's mistresses. It's said that Marie Antoinette had an entire room dedicated to her collection of fragrances, a small aromatic paradise where she could find a bit of breathable air compared to the stale, polluted air of the common rooms. 4. The chaise percée, the queen's private throne. One of the most curious aspects of court life was the way noblewomen, in particular the queen, managed intimate moments. Indeed, there was an object called the chaise percée, essentially a chair with a hole in the center, inside of which was a removable container. Thus, the queen could take care of her business even in the presence of the nobility, because at Versailles etiquette required that much of the king's and queen's lives be public. This chair, often richly decorated and upholstered with precious fabrics, was kept by a valet de chambre or a trusted lady of the court. Note, however, that the chaise percée was not exclusively for women, as there were similar versions for noblemen as well. Speaking of which, write to us in the comments what you think about this extravagant custom. Did you expect the Queen could operate in public? Or are you completely taken aback? We're curious to read your opinions. Leave your comments below and share your perspective. 5. Louis XIV and the Lever Ceremony. The King's public awakening. Continuing with court habits, it's impossible not to mention Louis XIV's Lever Ceremony, the Sun King. Each morning, there was a ritual in which the most favored courtiers were allowed into the sovereign's chamber to witness his awakening. During this solemn, and, let's be honest, somewhat surreal, event, the king was helped to wash, often with just a few drops of scented water, to get dressed, and to have his hair styled. It sometimes happened that someone, in a more private session, would assist in the king's morning needs, an unusual honor but one that was considered a sign of great confidence and closeness to power at the time. Being present during the king's toilet was, socially, a testament to very high prestige. Let's not forget that court life was structured like a rigid pyramid, where every tiny detail of visibility and proximity to the sovereign mattered immensely. 6. The excrement servant, a highly sought-after position. Even more peculiar was the presence of officials assigned to handling royal excrement. Yes, you read that right. Among the various valets, butlers, and advisors, there was someone specifically responsible for collecting and disposing of the king's business. And despite how distasteful it may seem, this job was highly sought after. Getting that close to the king and his most private needs often opened the door to favors, grace, and sometimes even economic benefits. Everything was governed by strict etiquette. The servant moved according to very precise procedures, and any mistake, be it timing or method, could cost them dearly. In a court where intrigue was the order of the day and where every opportunity was used to advance one's status, even a role that seemed so unpleasant could prove to be strategic. 7. Endless parties. When there was no time for a bathroom break. Now let's explore the famous celebrations at Versailles, nights of dancing, endless banquets, classical music concerts, and lavish masquerade balls. In a setting of constant merriment, the nobility didn't want to miss a single minute of fun. There was no time to withdraw to one's apartment or to look for a dub C, which, by the way, didn't exist, in the palace's labyrinth. So what happened then? It happened that many preferred to leave their souvenirs in the palace's less visible corners, on service stairways, or even in some ornamental vase if needed. The servants were then forced into never-ending, but often insufficient, cleaning tasks, and the smell, amid the humidity, smoky candles, and human warmth, became dreadful in no time. Yet, the party went on with no one showing much embarrassment. At Versailles, everyone pretended nothing was amiss because the palace's reputation as a place devoted to joie de vivre had to remain intact. 8. The fundamental role of perfumes, masking the impossible. This is where perfumes truly took center stage. Versailles was not only the European capital of ostentation, but also of aromatic experimentation. Master perfumers like Jean Fargin created essences so powerful and complex that they could attempt to obliterate any unpleasant smell. Some of these blends featured spicy, citrusy, and floral notes, combined with ingredients that were almost mysterious for the era. It's no surprise, then, that the wooden paneling or the upholstered furniture of the court were imbued with a sweet and sour mixture of fragrances that could almost overwhelm a more delicate sense of smell. In this vicious cycle, the more perfume people used, the more heavily scented the air became. And the more the air was filled with fragrance, the more perfume was needed. A paradox that lasted for decades, until personal hygiene and plumbing architecture advanced to a more tangible level. 9. The petty coin. Attempts at privacy in a crowded palace. Despite everything, over time some partial solutions were introduced. Thus appeared the so-called petit coins, small nooks or tiny rooms equipped with a portable chamber pot, sometimes adorned with lids and fabrics. Unfortunately, the shortage of these spaces and the lack of a true waste disposal system rendered the petit coins only partially effective. Often, they were tiny rooms set up in remote areas, hidden away in some secondary corridor, where foul odors would accumulate. To avoid lingering too long, many nobles preferred to do their business quickly and return to the party, leaving the servants with the unpleasant task of cleaning. But with hundreds of guests and visitors every day, it was impossible to keep the situation under control. Yet again, perfume and fans were the main resources used to save appearances. 10. Hygiene revolution. From oblivion to progress. As the 18th century approached, and especially with the turbulence that would lead to the French Revolution, many ideas began to change. An increasing number of doctors advocated for more frequent washing, baths started to be reassessed, and people realized, thanks to early studies on hygiene, that accumulated filth could cause diseases and infections. Particularly in larger cities like Paris, the first sewer systems were tested, and there was growing awareness about the importance of separating living spaces from waste areas. When the French monarchy fell and a new political order took hold, even the symbols of the past, including the pomp and excesses of Versailles, fell under the scrutiny of history. Eventually, the royal apartments were modernized, and slightly more modern bathrooms, rudimentary though they were, and more efficient disposal pipes were introduced. 11. The legacy of these dirty secrets, why they matter, we might ask. What's the point of talking about such embarrassing and inelegant stories? The answer is that they tell us a lot about the mindset, hierarchies, and lifestyles of an era we often idealize today. They remind us that even the most lavish court wasn't free from contradictions, and that privacy, which we take for granted, was practically non-existent. The story of Versailles toilets, with all their eccentric twists, shows us how power and vanity can influence every aspect of existence, even its most intimate and physiological ones. Moreover, these behind-the-scenes glimpses help us understand how, over the centuries, technological innovation and social progress have radically changed day-to-day habits, bringing us to hygiene standards unimaginable in past centuries. In conclusion, by now, the question arises spontaneously: how would we have reacted, visiting the Palace of Versailles in the time of the Sun King? We'd likely have been astonished, if not outright scandalized, by habits so peculiar and so lacking in hygienic sense. But at the same time, perhaps we'd have been enchanted by their ability to transform a not-so-functional place into a setting brimming with symbolism and opulence, where every gesture of the king or queen became a genuine spectacle of power. Each of us, in the end, can learn a curious lesson from this story: never judge a past, or even present-day, reality exclusively through the eyes of the present. Customs and traditions change, and what seems obvious to us today, like bathroom privacy or the daily use of soap and running water, was far from normal once. And maybe, who knows, a few centuries from now, our descendants will be surprised by our everyday habits. If this journey among the best-kept secrets of the Palace of Versailles left you speechless, don't hesitate to let us know with a comment down below. Share this video with your friends, family, schoolmates, or colleagues, because history, especially the dirty kind, never ceases to amaze. And remember to subscribe to Travel Curiosities if you haven't already. Here, you will always find fascinating content, innovative ideas for your cultural travels, and anecdotes to impress everyone at your social gatherings. Hit the like button, activate the notification bell, and don't miss the upcoming events. Thank you so much for joining us on this fragrant tour of Versailles past. It's been a pleasure to shine a light on one of the most unusual chapters of French history, and we're delighted to have entertained, surprised, and maybe even amused you with some details rarely found in school books. We'll see you in the next Travel Curiosities video, another dive into the curiosities and extravagances of our wonderful world. Goodbye, everyone, and have a great day.